Hello, RailCats fans, and welcome back to another edition of the RailCats Talk podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Savage, and in this podcast, I'm going to be covering four games. Two games I missed, one game I was at, and one game I actually got to sit down and watch. So I'm going to go in reverse order. I'm going to go off the most recent game and work myself backwards. So the most recent game was today's loss to the Lincoln Saltdogs, the second game of the series. Where we lost by 1 run, 2-1. Where Leaf Strom, he pitched a no-hitter all the way up to the fifth inning. He pitched a fifth and 1/3. The pitch count really got him at that point. He ended the day at 82 pitches. He was scheduled for 6 innings anyways. It seems like Lamar Rogers is going to like this piggyback kind of system where he's going to be using he's just not going to have people that are starters and relievers and closers. He's going to have, some relievers that are going to be starting and some starters that are going to be relievers, as you saw that Adam Heidenfelder came in for a 2/3 inning. So that's a newish kind of system that I'm not familiar quite with how that's all running, how it runs its course a little bit. To me, I think it's kind of odd and strange because you have pitchers who are starters, and when you don't put them in that starting role and don't get them adjusted throughout the season, I think they kind of jacks up their timing a little bit. But I mean, I think this pitching staff's good enough to deal with that, and I think that's something that Coach Rogers may have adjusted with the team, and I think they're mentally prepared for it. As Harrison Francis said in his pregame interview with Tony Pasquesi today, he came in for relief of Cuello yesterday. I know I'm kind of jumping a little bit here, but he was just saying that, he's used to starting and he's used to warming up an hour before, and he had to right there on the spot. I mean, it was kind of one of those. Cuello went out with an injury. Not sure exactly what it was. I mean, he wasn't having his best stuff either, so I don't know if there was something lingering, and then it just ended up really showing later in the inning. So it was just kind of interesting to see how that one worked out. But then Adam Heidenfelder, you brought him in 2/3 inning, appearance. So I'm curious to see how he's going to work it out. I mean, it seems like they're just going to have a somewhat of a rotation, or who's pitching well, who's not, that kind of stuff. So I'm interested in seeing that part. But like I said, Strom had a no-hitter all the way up to the fifth inning where he got pulled after 1 out. He had 4 walks, and really the pitch count got driven up there in the third inning. He walked a handful of people, basically walked the bases loaded, and had a nice couple double plays that worked out. Woodworth had a nice line shot to him. I think that one I had it written down here. Oh, that was at that. It was there in the fourth, actually. Not the third. My bad. The fourth inning is when he drove up the pitches. He walked the bases loaded. And then there was a line drive to Weber, line to Woodworth, and Woodworth had a basically double play where he had it and then he just threw it to first. It was line drive. It was just one of those that he got out of the inning. So Strom still very good. I know he has a 2.89 ERA in his one relief appearance, but like I said, I don't know if Strom seems like more of a starter, even with Heidenfelder he's more of a starter as well. But Heidenfelder ended up giving up a hit, not striking anyone out. He gave up 1 hit, nothing major. They were still up 1-0 at that point. And then Chris Irwin came in, and it just kind of unraveled. I don't know. It seemed like Irwin was missing his spots, and the Salt Dogs were just like, all right, just pick it, go. But I mean, he ended up recovering. I mean, he ended up pitching the back half of Heidenfelder's pitching. Well, I guess he came. I'm all screwed up here. Let's see here. He came in, gave up a couple hits, and it just kind of went from there. He gave up a single to Martinez, and then he ended up striking out Olsen, and then Weber came in, hit himself a double, and then that's what kind of caused that to unravel there. he hit that double, and then Martinez scored. So I mean, it's just one of those. They kind of came in and they saw him pretty well and gave up a run, and that kind of happens. But then coming into the ninth, Martinez gets on a base with a single. He steals a base, and then it's down to Olsen strikes out, Weber strikes out, and then Grave comes in, hits a double. Then that brings in Martinez. So that was with Vega in. Carlos Vega came in for the pitch for the 8th and the 9th, and I thought he did pretty well. I mean, he gave up 3 hits, 1 run earned, but 4 strikeouts. So I thought he pitched pretty decently. I think it's just one of those where the pitching was there, but the batting wasn't there. Not by a long shot. I mean, they only had 5 hits in the game, so they had opportunities. It seemed like they were going to put pressure on pretty quickly. But you had a backwards K to start it out, and then while Raven another backward K. When you have runners in scoring position and you're putting pressure on people, it's no matter what. I guess I'm going to pound this into you guys' heads that back guy looking while striking out, no matter how close it may be, it just irritates me. And then they look at him like, well, that doesn't, I think there was one, I forget who it was. I'm looking back here. Oh, it's Cruz. I think it was a nasty curveball, and it looked like it was coming out and then dropped right down the middle, and you could tell he was fooled. Like that, being fooled versus going, oh, well, I didn't think that was a strike, is different. I should reiterate that, not every time is a backwards K a bad thing, as far as like when you look at it and you let it go and it's a fastball and hits the outside corner and you're like, that's not a strike. You look and then it rings you up. Like that irritates me more, is when you're going to argue the umpire. And yes, I'm not saying that the umpire tonight, it was Teddy Dutcher. It doesn't say he was the best. All right, his strike zone moved quite a bit. It fluctuated, moved in and out. It was kind of odd to say. I think there was a couple of them where I was like, all right, come on now, you could have given this one to us, and he didn't. I mean, it's the same thing with the Salt Dogs. There was a couple times the RailCats were up, and you're like, yeah, that could have been a strike, but it wasn't. So, I mean, it went both ways. You just kind of wish that there was a consistent strike zone. There was a couple times where he was calling the balls on the outside of strikes, and then he switched it up later in the game. So I don't know if it's just fatigue or whatever the case may be. It's not like it was a hot night. It was pretty chilly. The rain held off, thankfully. But I think the batting was there, but then it's the issue is they get a couple hits, they get a couple walks, and there's no one. You're not. Through the first 2 innings, you left 4 on base. Then 1 in the third, 1, 2, 3 inning in the fourth, 1 in the fifth, and then 2 in the sixth, and then none. And it was basically 1, 2, 3 throughout the rest of the game after that. But I mean, you have 2, 4, 6, 7, 9 people on base. Like, if you leave that many people on there, I think the offense was there, but then there's just certain people that came up to the lineup that just wasn't producing at what they should be. So I just one of those. They're gonna be hot at one point. It's just a matter of when everything can align perfectly. Like, these are the kinds of games that you wish they would win. I mean, the Salt Dogs are first in the West, and they still played them competitively. The first night, which I'll get into just in a second. They played them very competitively. They even played the Dogs very competitively. Just ends up not being the one game, or I guess I should take that back. There was 2 games that were kind of blowouts. Then there was 1 game that was kind of competitive in that aspect of things. But this game, it was just one of those that there was a couple lucks they lucked out on. I think it was Oland had a line drive to center. The guy made a diving play and made the catch. So it was kind of like, the luck wasn't there. But then later on, someone had something similar. Don't think it was KV Edwards. I'm trying to think where. I thought it was a little bit later in the game. or maybe it was Smith had that line drive that was done. That was yeah, it was Smith that had that play that happened. But there was one other where they made the play. Maybe it was KB Edwards, but I thought it was later in the uh, game. I was eating dinner in the middle of it, so my scoreboard might be a little jacked up. I try to keep as much as I could possibly. But so let's go to the home opener, which was yesterday. I was actually at the game, and there was quite a bit of people there. I would say that looking at the stands today on AATV, that there wasn't as many as there was yesterday. We walked in. I had to get some. I gotta get me a hat. I had to get me a hat, so I got the was it the Zephyr, however you call that? I think it's Zephyr, hat brand. The pinstripe, the white with the pinstripe and the G logo with the cat claw over the top of it, and the baseball. I had to get that with, I guess, the logo that they're using right now is on most of their hats. I had to get me a hat. I love getting hats. I was gonna get the pinstripe jersey, but I may wait till another day to get that one. I think they also had the pinstripe jerseys out that day, and I thought they were magnificent. They look great. I love them. I'm a big fan of the pinstripes, anyways. They just look clean cut. I kind of wish they would wear those all year, but I know that's not possible. They wore their greens today, but that's beside the point. I know they're probably not the MLB where they can just produce a bunch of jerseys, so they kind of have to rotate them anyways. I know the Saltdogs were wearing their reds today as well, but Edward Cuello started, and I sitting there with my fiance. We ended up sitting, I think it was 3 rows up, probably a couple rows over from the dugout. And I looked at her and I looked at Quay. I said, this guy's gonna be good. Like he was one of the guys that I was thinking, he may not be here. There's a handful of people, mostly on the pitching staff right now, that I think are gonna get their contracts purchased. If they keep producing the way they are now, I'll just say Adam Heidenfelder, Leif Strom, and just got Trevor Lipking. Those 3, and then I had Edward Cuello in there. So those 4, I was like, yeah, these guys are kind of what your powerhouse pitching's right here. I think after Cuello got hurt, so did Trevor did. So I don't know what the situation is going to be with that one. But Harrison Francis is working his way into that realm there. I just don't see enough from the offense to really put anyone up there, so it's kind of hard for me to say, yeah, I think this, and this person. I mean, if Olud can stay hot, if Lingua can stay hot, I think Olud over Daniel. But that's just it. I'm not seeing consistency through the lineup. I know Cruz has a big bat, but the issue was so yesterday. Let's get into yesterday. At the home opener, I think it was a nice crowd. I like that they have the off square bar, sitting right there when you walk into the main gates right there. I didn't realize that 18th Street Brewery as well. So I think it was nice to have a couple local teams there, not local breweries there, selling their stuff. They had the Lake Station football team was there as well. They were in the region concession stand, working, so probably helping with fundraising for them, stuff like that. I know the coach, his last name's Wolf. I can't think of his first name. From when I was coaching football at the high school level, the AD there was the head coach at where I was at. So I just know him through the grapevine a little bit. We went to a couple camps, stuff like that, before I went off and did my other things and so on and so forth. But it was nice to see that from people. The night started out nice. We knew the weather was coming. It was just a matter of when. But it was humid, and you could just the way the ball sounded off the bat, like you knew it was just one of those nights where the ball, if you hit it right, it's gonna go. And boy, did the Salt Dogs surely do that. They yeah. I mean, the first at bat, Randy Norris just cranks one over, and it goes like you heard it off the bat, and you're like, oh, there it goes. And Cuello has the speed, he has the stuff, but that stuff wasn't there. I mean, he was throwing heat right down the middle, and they just had to they just had to get good enough on it, and that thing just soared and went. Um, and then Skylar Weber hit the grand slam a little bit later. So that was just a tough one, and then they kind of sputtered them out for a couple innings. And then it was just kind of like it's one of those you could feel it in the stadium, where we're just like, yeah, there's nothing much we could really do on that. And then Harris Francis came in. He gave up 1 run on 1 hit, 1 earned, 4 walks, 6 strikeouts. I think the walks could have gone down a little bit, but it wasn't really that bad. Carlos Vega came in. Josh Vincent came in, and then we saw the returning of Robbie Corcel come back. He pitched pretty decent. I mean, he gave up 3 hits, 3 runs, 3 earned, but 4 strikeouts. That's just he just got in. He wasn't with the team right away. It was so the timing and everything there's not for him just yet. But I think he'll be a decent part to this rotation of starters, relievers. I'm not sure what they're going to do with that. Just one of those nights where the bats, I mean, they scored 3 runs, which is always a positive. Scoring runs, you don't want to get shut out, but, nothing major that happened. I know Jamian Williams, I think he's still hurt, but he's eligible for maybe a pitch hit or get on base. So it'd be nice to get get him back. He's been very, very good in center field. Also with KB Edwards, he was playing center field as well. He's done very well. We saw Raymond Jones come in, play left. I thought he had a good night. He just didn't really hit the ball very well. I mean, he didn't really hit at all. But that's just coming down to not being able to play. And then Rookard played. Last night he got a hit. He didn't get a hit today. But you're gonna get through different lineups and different things like that. But I mean, overall, I thought the home opener was nice. There was a lot of people there. It was just nice going to a ball game and watching the kids interact with the players. And I saw with Davian Williams, there was a kid went over there and he just gave him a bat. Like here's the bat. There you go, take it. And you just see the kid smiling from ear to ear, going like, "You just really give this to me?" And he goes, "Yeah, I did." So, it was nice to see that kind of stuff. See the interactions. The players, may not always want to interact with the fans, but they will. You don't get that if you go to a single A game. You don't get that like a South Bend Cubs game. I know a couple that have been out to, and the players don't do that. Like they're there for the fans, but they're there for a greater purpose. As versus in the AA, I think the players are there for a greater purpose, but understand the fans are a big part of it, and interacting with the fans will bring fans back. That kind of stuff. So that was interesting to see that. I know the RailCats gave out a bunch of free tickets. That's how we got our tickets. We were gonna get tickets anyways, but I went to the Off Square event where they released the Cats Meow, and they were giving out free tickets. So it was just kind of nice. You went there, get to go to the environment. It was only a 30-minute drive for us, so it's always nice to go out there. I know with gas prices, it can be very hard. But the benefit is knowing that you're not going to spend an arm and leg going there. Parking's free if you go to the right spots, at least. I know Lot B, which is out in right field, behind right field, all that stuff, that was free parking. So if you get there early enough, you'll get free parking, so that's never an issue. But I think getting out to games is always a good thing. Experiencing baseball in a different manner. You bring it down to, let's put it this way. So, you go to Little League games if you have kids, and you go to see your kids. You go to high school, you go to see your kids, but you have high schoolers that are going to razz, other players because, from a different team, stuff like that. But when you go to these kind of games, you're going as a fan or just to watch genuine baseball. you may not have any strings attached. The players rotate so much that sometimes you don't get a favorite player. There's players you can root for. I mean, you're going to root for all your players in general, but it was just different to see. I mean, you had one in right field, in the berm, the grass berm there, you had kids playing. And in left field, there was a 21st birthday going on. A bunch of PNW kids were over there, drinking and having a good time. Talking with the outfielders, that kind of stuff. So I mean, that's the interactions you don't get if you went to a professional game. I mean, you get more razzings of players than different interactions, and it's interesting to see the kids run around, wanting to get all the foul balls and things like that, and talking with each other, and you just don't get to see those at professional teams. You go to see a professional team, you expect the best out of the best. Here you understand the circumstances, but you still go and have a good time. It's good to get away from whatever's going on in your life. It's just go to a game. It's just interesting. It's fun. I like going to games like that. That was interesting. I mean, my fiance's not a big baseball fan, but she was like, "You want to go to the next game, blah blah, this and that." So, not saying that she's going to always be a driving force. I'm going to be the driving force no matter what, to go, because I want to go. I think it's interesting. Potentially looking after we get married, maybe getting season tickets. I don't know. She's on the phone. I'm trying to be quiet because she's in the next room. Maybe season tickets next year. I would like to get season tickets. Maybe like the season passes. Not so much seats yet. But we were talking about maybe doing like family tickets, family passes, that kind of stuff. I mean, realistically, you can get the tickets and almost sit wherever you want. I mean, it's not the point where it's completely packed or you can't sit where you want. You may be able to sit in the vicinity of where you want. I'm just going and surprised when when we sat down, that we were able to sit so close. I would expect more people to sit closer, but I know they don't have the fencing all the way around, so I know people don't want to, sit there, or, right behind, right there behind the plate, that kind of stuff. So people just kind of spread themselves out. They want to enjoy the game separately from other people. They don't want to be clustered together. So I think that's always an interesting thing. So yeah, but then you had the rain that came in the top of the fifth, that delayed it for an hour and a half, and at that point, she had to get fitted for a dress in the morning today. So, and we had gutters put on our house. So I had to be up early anyways to make sure everything went okay with them, that kind of stuff. So we thought it was gonna get ready to go about 9:45. The rain started coming again, and we're like, let's just go ahead and head out. On the whole, the next 30 minutes later, we get home and they started the game up again. But I guess it was one of those that if it was a game like today, I would have fought to stay. But it was like, at that point, it was it was 7-0 at that point. So it was kind of like, yes, it's halfway through the game, but it ended up being 13-3. So it wasn't like a huge thing that we did. We didn't see it. The tickets were free, so it wasn't that big of a deal. I just thought, coming off a series where they played King County very well. I mean, they lost 3-4 and they won 4-0. I thought they played them very well, especially a team that's 5-2, 5-2 on the season. I was expecting, with it being a home opener, a little bit more emotion, that would be a better game, but it happens. I mean, they played a very good game. I would say they played a solid game today. I don't know if it was the best game in the world. It was just one of those where the hits weren't there for them, maybe, or the spot they were hitting. Things like that happen. I mean, there's a lot of hits here. They got 5 hits. They only struck out 9, where we struck them out 14 times. So I mean, the strikeouts were okay. Even in walks, so I can't really say that the walks were the factor. The strikeouts were really that big of a factor into the game. It was just kind of where the hits were placed. A couple of line shots, a couple ground balls, stuff like that. But the one thing that I'm learning more and more about Lamar Rogers is he wants, if the game isn't going the offensive route, which a lot of the games haven't, he's been trying to implement different ways, maybe a hit and run here or there, or a bunt. I mean, Michael Woodworth had a beautiful bunt there in the third inning. There's a couple hit and runs that went on, but nothing really mustered of it. I think in this league it's okay to do that, the small ball kind of stuff, which I always enjoy the small ball anyways. Someone that can lay down a great bunt, steal a bag, do things here and there. I just think this was one of the games where the pitching was there, but the hitting really wasn't really there. I mean, you can't really blame I'm not going to blame the pitching in this game. It's hard for me to blame the pitching in this game. I mean, even in yesterday's game, I guess outside of the first inning, it's kind of hard to blame the pitching a little bit. I mean, they ended up giving a handful of runs up later in the game. But I just think that at that point, you're coming off of a rain delay, you're already down so much, and you're just that's another game where you kind of chalk up and go, that's a tough game to play in. I mean, it was almost a 6-hour game, I think. Over 6 hours. I mean, it started at 6:45 and didn't end until 12:12. So I mean, it's not quite over 6 hours, almost 6 hours. It's still a very long game to be playing in the first place, even if you're sitting and you're going, things like that. The fans aren't there anymore, really. A lot of people left. So it was just kind of one of those things. It was also late on a Friday night as well. But, I mean, all in all, I mean, we're on a losing streak now. I mean, it's a 3-game losing streak. Hopefully maybe get in the rubber match tomorrow. But it'll be interesting to see what goes on, what transpires. We're getting to the point of the season where we're basically a weekend, and the hitting quite isn't there yet. I would like to see a little bit more hitting, more patience. Just kind of looking. I mean, you had one pitcher who pitched. Let me make sure here. Strom pitched 5 1/3, and then you had, I guess they both pitched. Strom pitched further than Delano did, but at lesser pitch counts. I mean, Delano ended at 69-70, and Strom ended at 82. Maybe a couple here or there, stuff like that. But I mean, that's a big difference there. Maybe taking a little bit more walks or making more patience at the plate. But in time that will come. We need more of the power. We need the power from Burgess. We need the power from Cruz. I mean, other than that, I mean, Olid and Lingua both have grand slams. But you're not getting much else power-wise that we might have seen. It's just not there. I think Cruz will eventually get around. Burgess might eventually get around it. I know Burgess has to settle into a new role playing first base. Cruz has been a catcher, but he was originally signed as an infielder for first base, but that's all gotten switched around. It's a tough game, tough loss. I'm looking forward to the rubber match tomorrow. With that said, the rubber match, I won't be able to. I'll may get to listen to the little bit of it on my way home from work, but nothing major. So that game might not be covered as well. So maybe a podcast. Maybe I'll throw something together. Monday, possibly a podcast. Tuesday, it'll be a podcast as well. I'll have one out for that game because I'm off that day. So I'll watch the game. I know it's an early game. It's a school day game, so it's an early game there. But with that being said, 3-game losing streak kind of sucks. This was a tough one today. A clunker yesterday, and another tough one. I mean, they ended up losing 4-3. That was another kind of one of those games where you wish you had it back, but it was more of a complete game than anything. Effort. That's just we haven't seen a lot of those. I guess with King County, you had more of a complete defensive, offensive, pitching game. These last 2 games, it's been one-sided either way. I guess really yesterday's game wasn't one-sided. The hitting wasn't there either, but there's just not a complete game overall. I think if we have more complete games, we'll be saying, oh, instead of a 3-game losing streak, it's a 3-game winning streak, and instead of a 2-1 loss, it's a 2-1 win. That kind of stuff. So it'll be interesting. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up here. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at RailCats Talk, and then on Facebook as well. Make sure to comment and subscribe down below. And it may not be the results we want, but these are the results we get. Hopefully, it gets better. So keep on tugging along. I'll keep tugging along, and we'll figure it all out. Hopefully, the RailCats figure it out as well. But for me, I'm Kalsavedich, and I want you all to have a good rest of your night, rest of your day, whenever you listen to this, and go Cats.